Hello everyone. Today we are going to be looking at a video by a Sabine Hossenfelder. And the video is called 2 plus 2 does not always equal 4 in a series called Science Without the Gobbledygook. Which is fair enough, I do myself like science videos. But unfortunately I have already had a look at this video and I just felt like I had to reply to it. Because I have done a lot of maths throughout my life, having it be one of my best subjects at school, and even into uni doing geophysics, I had to do quite a lot of complex mathematics. So I know a thing or two about the subject. But before we get into it, just a bit of a background on Sabine. It looks like from her other videos she does like to go into basically good science. What does the universe expand into? She's got there things about carbon capture, things about the ozone layer, the videos I might want to watch, who knows. Things about life on Venus, things about space, quantum computing, things like that. Things that are generally good things to cover, I'd say. And with her Twitter bio, that's also alright. So she's a physicist, blogger, author, YouTuber, sometimes songwriter, nighttime philosopher, maker of my own misery. Fair enough. RT shares and likes and not her endorsements. That's fine as well. A lot of people have that on Twitter. Oh, she, her. Well, all of a sudden I'm unsurprised that she's trying to say 2 plus 2 doesn't equal 4. So let's have a look at what she has to say.
2 plus 2 makes 5 is the paradigmatic example of an obvious falsehood. A falsehood that everybody knows to be false, because 2 plus 2 is equal to 1, right? At the end of this video, you'll know what I'm talking about.
Obviously she's poking fun at the beginning here, you'll see the type of maths she gets into. But I think what annoys me here is that when you don't have any context for any numbers, obviously when you say 2 plus 2, you mean the very abstract 2 of something, whatever that may be, added to another 2 of something abstract, always equals to a sum total of 4. Devoid of context, that's all we can assume. But of course, she injects a load of context that changes what these numbers mean, and that's fine, but that doesn't negate the fact that 2 plus 2 always equals 4.
George Orwell famously used 2 plus 2 equals 5 in his novel 1984 as an example for an obviously false statement that you can nevertheless make people believe in.
People like you, I suppose?
The same example was used already in 1789 by the French priest and writer Emmanuel Sieyès. Sieyès wrote, "If it be claimed that under the French Constitution 200,000 individuals out of 26 million citizens constitute 2/3 of the common will, only one comment is possible. It is a claim that 2 and 2 make 5.
Yes, what he is claiming there is that the numbers don't add up for democracy, because clearly it was for universal suffrage. He's saying, obviously, that 200,000 divided by 26 million does not equal 2/3. And clearly that is true. So he's saying, well, if they're saying that makes 2/3, then you may as well say 2 plus 2 equals 5. Because guess what? There is no way you can say either of those things are true, so please do continue.
This was briefly before the French Revolution. So you can see there's a heavy legacy to using 2 plus 2 is 5 as an example of an obvious untruth. And if you claim otherwise, that can understandably upset some people.
Well, I don't know if upset's the right word for me here. I'm not upset that you're saying 2 plus 2 doesn't always equal 4. I'd say I'm more irritated. Because clearly someone with, like me, a good background, probably better background in science and maths, it's annoying that you'd use rhetorical tricks to try and claim that 2 plus 2 doesn't always equal 4. But of course you've still got to bring your arguments forward, so, well, let's get to it.
For example, the mathematician Karim Khan recently got fire on Twitter for pointing out that 2 plus 2 isn't always equal 4.
Yes, because it's a silly thing to say. Obviously, you're going to go through the examples yourself, but he was saying that 2 plus 2 doesn't equal 4 when you stop having 2 plus 2 equaling 4. It's when you add context to it that basically changes the fact that you are adding them. And you're instead, say, finding an average because of the way the units work or the way you add those two particular units. Yeah, that's fine. But no one is dismissing that, and no one is going to say that 2 plus 2 doesn't equal 4. Because the whole point is that it's an abstract construct, but then when you put context into it, obviously then it might change the way that you need to do maths, and in the end you won't be just doing simple addition. Otherwise it couldn't work.
He was accused of being woke because he supposedly excused obviously wrong math as okay.
Well, I'll need specific examples, but I do remember that tweet and I do remember it being silly. But as I say, you'll get into the arguments a bit better than he can on Twitter.
Even he was surprised at how upset some people got about it, because his point is of course entirely correct. 2 plus 2 isn't always equal to 4.
When you add in a bunch of context, and it is not just the abstract thought of adding two unknown units together, yes, you are correct. But again, this is just completely sidestepping and dodging the argument, because 2 plus 2 does always equal 4. Otherwise, as the Frenchman pointed out before, you can mess around with any statistic for any sort of propaganda. Oh, it looks like we still do that though.
And I don't just mean that you could change the symbol 4 with the symbol 5. You can do that, of course, but that's not the point. The point is that 2 plus 2 is a symbolic representation for the properties of elements of a group. And the result depends on what the 2's refer to and how the mathematical operation plus is defined.
Well, this is the bit that annoys me, because now she's putting in the context. Okay, 2 plus 2 what? Well, the answer is, it doesn't matter. 2 of anything plus 2 of anything else, like whatever the units, will always equal 4 of that said unit. Because as she said, it represents elements of a group, and it's a group of 2. So 2 elements of one thing plus another 2 elements of said thing equals 4 elements of said thing. So thank you, video over. But then it gets into this whole rhetorical trick of, oh, how do we define 2 and plus? Well, the answer is that they're still the same. The problem is that these symbols will be denoted differently, as she literally goes into.
Strictly speaking, without those definitions, 2 plus 2 can be pretty much anything. That's where the joke comes from that you shouldn't let mathematicians sort out the restaurant bill, because they haven't yet agreed on how to define addition.
Yes, as I said before, this is just simple rhetorical tricks, which is really weird because most mathematicians I know just speak in plain English and know what you mean when you say 2 plus 2 equals 4, unless they're trying to be a smart arse.
To see why it's important to know what you are adding and how, let's back up for a moment to see where the normal addition law comes from.
Well, this is good. Everyone should be able to follow along to this.
If I have 2 apples and I add 2 apples, then that makes 4 apples, right? Right.
Cool, video over. That's it. It can't make any other number of apples. So what are you going to do to try and say that it can?
Okay, but how about this? If I have a glass of water with a temperature of 20 degrees and I pour it together with another glass of water at 20 degrees, then together the water will have a temperature of 40 degrees.
See, this is where the rhetorical trick starts to come in. Now, obviously in the English language, add means a few different things. So here, when you say, oh, I've got a 20-degree cup of water and I add it to another 20-degree cup of water, everyone knows what you mean, and people will know that you don't mean we need to add 20 degrees plus 20 degrees, because that's not how temperatures work. But this is what I mean by rhetorical trick. She's now going to tell you, oh, see, 20 plus 20 doesn't equal 40. Why is that? Oh, because we've added context and, rhetorical tricks to it. Just no, I reject this. The difference between 20 degrees and 40 degrees is 20 degrees, implying that if you add 20 degrees C directly to 20 degrees C, you still get 40 degrees C. But obviously that's different to adding 2 glasses of water together that are the same temperature. But anyway, let's have her explain herself.
No, certainly not. If both glasses contained the same amount of water, the final temperature will be 1/2 the sum of the temperatures, so that'd still be 20 degrees, which makes much more sense.
Do you see what I mean? She's basically, all she has said there is that 20 degrees plus 20 degrees doesn't equal 40 degrees if we're trying to find the average of the two 20 degrees. Like, yeah, that makes sense. You're not just adding there then, are you? You're finding the mean temperature. And if you're trying to find the mean of two numbers and not just the total sum of them, then you're not adding them. Or at least you are adding them, but then adding another mathematical property to it to try and find a completely different answer. Again, this doesn't negate that 2 plus 2 equals 4.
Temperatures don't add by the rule 2 plus 2 equals 4.
No, again, rhetorical trick. You are not adding temperatures then, you are finding the average temperature. Because that's the formula for what happens when you put two fluids together that are of different temperatures or the same temperature. So of course it doesn't just follow 2 plus 2 equals 4. But as you mentioned before, there is still an addition in there, and that addition, if it was 2 degrees and 2 degrees, it'd have to equal 4 degrees. And then you find the average from that. So if 2 plus 2 didn't equal 4, this formula wouldn't even work. What a poor example.
And why is that? It's because temperature is a measure for the average energy of particles, and averages don't add the same way as apples.
Yeah, that's because finding the average is not the same as simply just addition. Although it still has addition in it, so I don't know why you're using this example. If addition didn't work properly, then you couldn't find averages.
The average height of women in the United States is 5 feet 4 inches, and that of men 5 feet 9 inches. But that doesn't mean that the average American has a height of 11 feet 1.
Yes, because anyone would call you an idiot if you actually use the 2 plus 2 equals 4 to find the height of an average American from the average height of men and women. Again, this doesn't disprove 2 plus 2 equals 4, because that part of the formula is correct. So I wouldn't be doing my best to try and disprove that if I were you.
You have to know what you're adding to know how to add it.
Again though, this isn't addition. Stop saying add it. Say to either find the answer or find the total or whatever, but don't say when you try and add it, because you're not adding here. You're finding an average, completely, well, not even completely different concept, because it's literally just addition with one division at the end.
Another example. Suppose I switch on a flashlight. The light moves at, well, the speed of light. And as you know, the speed of light is the same for all observers. We learned that from Albert Einstein. Yes, that guy again.
Oh, Jesus, you're the physicist. He's only the father of physics. Don't look so fed up about it. Albert Einstein was literally a genius, even if he was a socialist.
Now, suppose I switch on the flashlight while you come running at me at, say, 10 kilometers per hour. At what velocity is the light coming at you? Well, that's the speed of light plus 10 kilometers per hour, right? No, because that'd be faster than the speed of light. What is going on?
Interestingly enough, she doesn't actually go into it properly this video, but time actually slows down when that happens. That's why it's going to be a big problem trying to get from our solar system to any other. The closest star is about 16,000 light years away. So trying to find a way to travel faster than light, going to be pretty much impossible. Though I'm sure if Joz watches this video, he'll say something in the comments that's very clever and tells us about space travel.
What's going on is that velocities don't add like apples either. They merely approximately do this if all the velocities involved are much smaller than the speed of light. But strictly speaking, they have to be added using this formula.
And again, if you just take the u and v from that formula, and one was 2 and the other was 3, that would equal 5, and then the rest of the formula obviously would play its part. But again, this is injecting context into it. And I remember doing Suvat equations. They're equations for acceleration, time, speed, and all that. Basically mathematical equations to find out basic mechanics. And we never bothered doing this because it was good enough to represent reality, because as she says, it's so much smaller than the speed of light, it really doesn't matter. And if you said to my physics teacher at A level that 2 plus 2 doesn't always equal 4, he'd call you an idiot or a smartass and carry on with the lesson. But once again, doesn't actually disprove that the principles of addition don't work.
Here, u and v are the two velocities that you want to add, and w is the result. C is the speed of light. You see immediately if one of the velocities, say u, is also the speed of light, then the resulting velocity stays the speed of light. So if you add something to the speed of light doesn't change. If you come running at me, the light from my flashlight still comes at you with the speed of light.
Yes, but again, this is in context of 1, the real world, and 2, well, the unit of velocity. But if you just have the speed of light as an abstract thing and try and add 2 to it, it would be whatever the speed of light is in kilometers per second or whatever, plus an extra 2 kilometers a second. And that's if we're not dealing with the real world, but an abstract world where the laws of physics don't apply as they do in ours. But of course you need to add that context, but it still doesn't negate rules of basic addition, because if they didn't work, as I keep saying, all these formulas would be useless.
Indeed, if you add the speed of light to the speed of light, because maybe you want to know the velocity at which two light beams approach each other head-on, you get c plus c equals c. So in units of the speed of light, according to Einstein, 1 plus 1 is 1.
Oh, this is so smart, Arcee. He's not saying 1 plus 1 equals 1, because the speed of light isn't even a unit. It's a universal constant, it's not a unit of measurement. And even every unit of measurement is in relation to another unit of measurement, or in relation to the real world. What Einstein's actually saying is that if you add the speed of light to the speed of light, you still get the speed of light, because obviously we can't go over the speed of light. This is not the same thing as saying 1 plus 1 equals 1. And with the explanation you just gave, I'd be surprised if anyone buys that.
That's some examples from physics for quantities that just have different addition laws.
Yes, and all those additional laws still need 2 plus 2 equals 4 to be true. Having a formula for when you add two velocities together does not negate that fact. Carry on.
Here's another one from mathematics. Suppose you want to add two numbers that are elements of a finite group. To keep things simple, say a group with only 3 elements. We can give these elements the numbers 0, 1 and 2. We can then define an addition rule on this group, which I'll write as a plus with a circle around it to make clear it's not the usual addition.
I absolutely love this, I really do. We've literally just been told that 2 plus 2 doesn't always equal 4 because we have completely redefined the number system and we are completely redefining addition. Rhetorical tricks. I'm just not buying it, I'm sorry. These are very interesting concepts, don't get me wrong, and they do apply to the real world. But again, doesn't negate 2 plus 2 equaling 4.
This new addition rule works like this. Take the usual sum of two numbers, then divide the result by 3 and take the rest. So, for example, 1 plus 2 equals 3, divide by 3, the rest is 0.
This is ridiculous. Look at this, 2 plus 2 doesn't equal 4 because I've completely redefined how addition works and the number system. I mean, my god. How can anyone take this seriously?
The addition is defined so that we stay within the group. And by this addition law, we have 1 plus 2 equals 0, and by the same rule, 2 plus 2 equals 1.
Because 2 plus 2 equals 4 divided by 3 equals 1, remainder 1, so you take the rest and that's 1, for those of you that didn't get it. But again, this isn't addition. This isn't addition. Hence you're not using a standard plus sign, you've put a little circle around it to denote that it is not standard addition.
I know this looks odd, but it's completely standard mathematics. And it's not even very advanced mathematics, it just isn't commonly taught in school.
Well, that's probably because, at least from my mind, I've never had to use something like that. But I'm sure my friends who did maths at university will have learned that, but I can't really see a massive use for it myself. But again, you still haven't said how 2 plus 2 doesn't equal 4.
This remainder after division is usually called the modulus. So this addition law can be written as the plus with the circle equals the normal plus mod 3.
Again, you've had to put a completely different formula in to replace 2 plus 2 equals 4. It's not even replacing it, it's just a different law completely. And again, you had a mod 3 brackets x plus y. You still need x plus y to work. You still need 2 plus 2 to equal 4 for it to work.
A set of numbers with this addition law is called a cyclic group. You can't only do this with 3, but with any integer number. For example, if you take the number 12, that just means if you add numbers to something larger than 12, you start over from 0 again. That's how clocks work, basically. 8 plus 7 equals 3, add another 12, and that gives 3 again. We're fairly used to this.
Yes, but again, that is a very specific context. And if you add 12 hours to 3 hours, you get 15 hours. And if you want to go a step further and take in the idea of the 24-hour clock, you add another 10 to the 15, that's 25 hours. When I did a 24-hour stream back in January, I didn't call it the 0 hour stream, because that would be silly, but that would still, in the case of the clock, the 24-hour one anyway, be correct because of the cyclic numbers. And again, you still need the 2 plus 2 equals 4 formula to work for this. It's just when you reach the ceiling of your number group, it resets to 0. And it's actually the way that I work out numbers on a clock. If it gets to about 11 o'clock and someone's like, oh, meet me in 5 hours, I will add the 5 to the 11, work out it's 16, and then take 12 off to work out it's 4. So you still need your basic 2 plus 2 equal 4 to work for this, as I've said throughout the video, because 2 plus 2 can't possibly equal anything other than 4.
Clocks are a nice visual example for how to add numbers in a cyclic group, but timekeeping itself is not an example for cyclic addition. That's because the real physical time, of course, does not go in a circle.
Amazing. But it is a good example, I'll give it that.
It's just that on a simple clock we might not have an indicator for the time switching from AM to PM or from one day to the next. So in summary, if you add numbers, you need to know what it is that you're adding and take the right addition law to describe what you're interested in. If you take two integers and use the standard addition law, then yes, 2 plus 2 equals 4.
Amazing. Absolutely amazing. She goes through all that video basically just to say, oh look, here's some cool formulas we use for different contexts. But when people say 2 plus 2 equals 4, they mean devoid of all context. It's just the abstract law. So this is what I mean. This is just smart-ass the video with a bunch of rhetorical salt thrown in because, well, why not? She's trying to prove the mathematician who tweeted out 2 plus 2 sometimes equals 5 right. I assume they're friends, but my god, this is a hell of a reach. And at no point has she actually tried to prove the fact that 2 plus 2 equals 5. There's been no attempt to try and prove that particular one. But she's happy to go all the way to the speed of light in the physical world to try and prove it wrong. And even then it doesn't work, because again, you need addition laws to work for the formula to work.
But there are many other things those numbers could stand for and many other addition laws, and depending on your definition, 2 plus 2 might be 2 or 1 or 5 or really anything at all. That's not woke, that's math.
Well, the reason people called it woke is because it's just invoking 1984. If you're trying to say 2 plus 2 equals 5, then clearly you're trying to say something that isn't true is true. And again, you want to actually prove that 2 plus 2 equals 5 here. You're saying, oh, 2 plus 2 can equal anything. No, it must equal 4. If you then add context into it and then have to use a different formula, then yes, 2 plus 2, if we're going to use that rhetorical language, may equal something else. But you're not really doing the basic addition of 2 plus 2, are you? You're putting the two numbers into a formula. Honestly, this was asinine. As far as I'm aware, she was technically correct about everything, but as I say, it's just rhetorical tricks. And this is why they called him woke, because that's what the woke do. They use rhetorical tricks to try and go against reality. That's what you did here. But I do hope her other videos are better than that one. And it was nice to get my knowledge of maths out for once. I haven't used that since uni. But anyway, that's pretty much all I had to go through today. So, as usual, thank you very much for watching. And until next time, goodbye.